New at 11, CBS 46 dishes out the dirty details on failing restaurant inspections every week.
During the past decade, we have encountered some nasty violations and some very intense confrontations. Only on CBS 46 tonight, our Adam Murphy takes a look at some of the worst.
We all like to think we know what we're eating. A quick glance at the package, maybe a peek at the nutrition label, and we move on with our day. But the truth is, most of us have no idea what really goes into the food sitting in our shopping carts. Some production processes are kept deliberately out of sight, hidden behind marketing images of fresh farms and wholesome ingredients. Once you see what actually happens behind those factory doors, your grocery list might look very different. So what exactly are we putting in our bodies without realizing it?
South Florida restaurant was serving up food, but a state inspector said there was something missing: the kitchen.
Well, that restaurant was ordered shut after that inspector says the food was prepared in an unapproved place.
Hot dogs. The pink slurry nobody talks about. That perfect cylinder of meat didn't start out looking anything like what ends up in your bun. Hot dogs are made through a process called mechanical separation, where leftover meat scraps, trimmings, fat, and connective tissue are forced through a sieve under high pressure. What comes out is a smooth pink paste that bears little resemblance to actual cuts of meat. This slurry is then mixed with water, salt, corn syrup, and a cocktail of preservatives and flavor enhancers. The mixture gets emulsified, stuffed into casings, and cooked. The end result might taste fine, but it's essentially reconstructed meat paste held together by chemistry. Those plump, juicy hot dogs at your summer barbecue are made from parts of the animal that would otherwise be discarded, blended into a homogeneous substance that can be molded into any shape. The meat industry has become remarkably efficient at using every last scrap, and hot dogs are the perfect example of that efficiency taken to its logical extreme. Chicken nuggets, from lab to fryer. If you think chicken nuggets are just bite-sized pieces of chicken breast, think again. Most commercial nuggets start with mechanically separated chicken, a process similar to hot dogs where bones and leftover scraps are ground into a paste. This paste is then mixed with various fillers like modified cornstarch, wheat gluten, and vegetable proteins to bulk up the product and keep costs down. Stabilizers and binding agents hold everything together, while flavor enhancers mask the bland taste of reconstituted meat. The mixture is formed into shapes, breaded, and partially fried before being frozen and shipped to stores and restaurants. When you bite into a nugget, you're eating maybe 50% actual chicken muscle, with the rest being a combination of skin, ground bone, connective tissue, and chemical additives. The crispy exterior and familiar shape are designed to make you forget that this bears little resemblance to real chicken. They're fried in cheap seed oils that can withstand high heat and long frying times, oils that your body struggles to process efficiently. Imitation crab, fish paste in disguise. That crab stick in your California roll isn't crab at all. It's surimi, a Japanese invention that takes cheap white fish like pollock and processes it into a paste. The fish is washed repeatedly to remove its natural flavor, color, and smell, leaving behind a blank canvas of fish protein. This paste is then mixed with starch, egg whites, sugar, and salt to give it structure and taste. Red food dye gets added to create those distinctive orange stripes that supposedly mimic real crab leg appearance. Artificial crab flavoring completes the illusion. The mixture is heated and shaped into sticks or flakes, then packaged and sold as a seafood product. Real crab is expensive and labor-intensive to harvest and process. Surimi costs a fraction of the price to produce, which is why it's everywhere in affordable sushi and seafood salads. You're essentially eating reformed fish protein that's been stripped of its identity and rebuilt to pretend it's something else entirely. Vanilla flavoring, petrochemicals on your dessert. When you see vanilla flavoring on an ingredient list, there's a good chance you're not getting anything that came from an actual vanilla bean. Real vanilla is expensive because it requires hand pollination of orchid flowers and months of careful curing. Synthetic vanillin, on the other hand, can be mass-produced cheaply from various industrial sources. Some synthetic vanilla comes from lignin, a byproduct of the paper-making industry derived from wood pulp. Other forms are synthesized from petrochemicals in laboratories. The molecular structure is similar enough to fool your taste buds, but the complexity and subtle notes of real vanilla are completely absent. That vanilla ice cream or vanilla-flavored yogurt you're eating might contain flavoring that started its life as a wood derivative or petroleum product. Food manufacturers aren't required to specify the source of synthetic vanillin, so consumers rarely know the difference. The label just says vanilla flavoring, and most people assume it came from a plant. Cheap Parmesan, sawdust cheese. When you grab that plastic container of pre-grated Parmesan, you might be buying more wood than cheese. To prevent clumping, manufacturers add cellulose, a plant fiber that's essentially refined wood pulp. While small amounts are considered safe, some brands push the limits, packing their cheese products with far more cellulose than necessary. Tests have found certain Parmesan brands containing up to 25% cellulose, well above what's typically disclosed or expected. These anti-caking agents are cheap fillers that increase profit margins while reducing the amount of actual cheese in the container. Even worse, some companies have been caught adding cheaper cheeses like cheddar or Swiss to their Parmesan products without proper labeling. Regulatory oversight has loopholes big enough to drive a truck through, and enforcement is often lax. Real Parmesan cheese is aged, expensive, and labor-intensive to produce. But when you can cut it with wood fiber and cheaper cheeses, suddenly it becomes much more profitable. That powdery texture and lack of flavor compared to fresh grated Parmesan isn't just your imagination. Processed American cheese, not actually cheese. Those perfectly square, individually wrapped cheese slices aren't legally allowed to be called cheese. They're officially labeled as cheese product or cheese food because they don't contain enough real cheese to meet the legal definition. The production process starts with some real cheese, but then emulsifying salts are added to make it smooth and meltable. Oils, milk proteins, whey, and artificial colors round out the ingredient list. The result is a uniform, shelf-stable product that melts perfectly, but bears only a passing resemblance to actual cheese. Traditional cheese is made from milk, cultures, enzymes, and salt. American cheese product contains those things, but in much smaller proportions compared to the additives and emulsifiers that give it that characteristic texture and appearance. The bright orange color doesn't occur naturally in cheese. It comes from annatto or artificial dyes. These slices were engineered for convenience and consistency, not for being actual cheese. They melt nicely on burgers because of the emulsifiers, not because of any natural cheese properties. Canned beef stew. Mystery meat in a can. The chunks of meat floating in canned beef stew are about as low quality as meat can get while still being called beef. These are the toughest, cheapest cuts, the ones that require hours of cooking just to become remotely edible. The canning process involves cooking the meat until it's falling apart, then suspending it in a thick gravy loaded with starches and thickening agents. The long cooking time and high heat destroy most of the nutritional value, leaving behind something that's technically meat but nutritionally closer to cardboard. Preservation methods include high sodium content and sometimes additional preservatives to ensure the cans can sit on shelves for years without spoiling. The vegetables in these stews are equally degraded, cooked into mushy, barely recognizable shapes. The thick gravy is there to hide the low quality of everything else, creating a familiar texture and appearance that suggests heartiness. But if you could see the raw ingredients before processing, you probably wouldn't want to eat them. Shelf stability comes at the cost of quality and nutrition. Store-bought sushi, years-old fish. That tuna roll from the grocery store might be older than you think. Commercial fishing operations freeze their catch at sea, often for months or even years before it reaches consumers. While freezing preserves the fish and kills parasites, it also degrades texture and flavor. Much of the sushi-grade fish in supermarkets has been frozen and thawed at least once, sometimes multiple times during transport and storage. The bright red color of tuna in those packages often comes from carbon monoxide treatment, a legal process that preserves the appearance of freshness long after the fish has oxidized. Imitation crab, as we've discussed, is standard in cheap rolls. The rice is often loaded with sugar and preservatives to keep it soft and sticky without refrigeration. Grocery store sushi is a world away from fresh fish cut that morning at a quality restaurant. It's mass-produced, assembled hours before you buy it, and kept at temperatures that allow bacteria to slowly multiply. The fish has traveled thousands of miles, been handled by dozens of people, and sat frozen in warehouses for who knows how long. Gelatin desserts, boiled bones and skin. That jiggly dessert cup is made from animal parts you'd never willingly eat. Gelatin is produced by taking bones, skin, and connective tissue from cows and pigs, then boiling them for hours to extract collagen. This process breaks down the protein structure, creating a substance that dissolves in hot water and forms a gel when cooled. The resulting product is then dried, ground into powder, and mixed with sugar, artificial flavors, and bright synthetic colors to create the desserts we know. There's nothing inherently harmful about eating collagen, but the source material is literally the leftover scraps from meat processing that would otherwise be thrown away. The bones and skin are cleaned and treated, but you're still consuming a product made from boiled animal byproducts. Those translucent, brightly colored cubes wobbling on your spoon started as a pile of bones in a rendering facility. The food industry has found ways to use every part of the animal, and gelatin is one of the most successful examples of turning waste into profit. Commercial ice cream, air and chemicals. That container of ice cream is lighter than it should be because half of it is air. The industry term is overrun, referring to the amount of air whipped into the mixture during production. Premium ice cream has minimal overrun, but cheap commercial brands can be 50% air by volume. This makes production cheaper and increases profit margins, but it also means you're paying for a lot of nothing. Beyond the air, commercial ice cream is loaded with stabilizers like carrageenan and guar gum to prevent ice crystals and maintain texture. Artificial flavors replace expensive real ingredients, while synthetic colors make everything look more appealing. The result is a product that's engineered for shelf life and cost efficiency rather than quality or nutrition. Real ice cream should be cream, milk, sugar, and whatever flavor you're adding. Commercial versions contain upwards of 20 ingredients, many of which are there to compensate for low-quality base ingredients and excessive air content. That unnaturally smooth texture and ability to stay soft even when partially melted is chemistry, not cream. Injected chicken breast. Paying for salt water. That plump chicken breast in the plastic wrap probably weighs more than it should. Many commercial chicken producers inject their meat with a solution of water, salt, and phosphates to increase weight and improve appearance. This process, called plumping or enhancing, can add up to 20% more weight to the meat. You're paying chicken prices for salt water. The phosphate additives help the meat retain this extra moisture during cooking, preventing it from shrinking too much and exposing the deception. Labels might say enhanced or contains up to 20% solution, but these disclaimers are easy to miss. The practice is legal and widespread, used by most major chicken producers. Fresh chicken shouldn't need anything added to it, but the economics of industrial farming create pressure to maximize profit at every step. When you cook this chicken, you'll notice excessive liquid in the pan and meat that never quite browns properly because there's so much water evaporating. That's not natural moisture from the meat. It's the solution you paid extra for slowly leaking out. Farmed salmon. Gray meat dyed pink. Wild salmon gets its pink color from eating shrimp and krill that contain natural pigments. Farmed salmon, raised in crowded pens and fed pellets made from grain and fish meal, would naturally be gray or pale beige. To make their product marketable, farmers add astaxanthin to the feed, a synthetic pigment that turns the flesh pink. There are even color charts that farmers can use to select the exact shade of pink they want their fish to be, like choosing paint at a hardware store. Beyond the cosmetic issue, farmed salmon are often overcrowded, swimming in their own waste and treated with antibiotics to prevent disease outbreaks. Their feed contains dyes, additives, and sometimes ground-up fish parts that wild salmon would never encounter. The fat content is higher because they get less exercise than wild fish, but that fat contains whatever pollutants are in their feed and environment. Parasites are more common in farmed salmon due to the crowded conditions. That pink color you associate with fresh, healthy fish is actually evidence of industrial manipulation. Energy drinks, chemical cocktails. Those brightly colored cans promise energy and focus, but they're basically caffeine and sugar wrapped in aggressive marketing. The caffeine itself is often synthetic, produced in laboratories from chemical precursors rather than extracted from coffee or tea. Taurine, despite sounding exotic, is also synthetically produced through chemical processes. Then come the artificial colors, bright blues and greens that don't exist in nature, created from petroleum derivatives. Preservatives like sodium benzoate ensure the drink won't spoil even after months on a shelf. The combination of high caffeine, massive sugar content, and various stimulants creates a jolt that feels like energy but is really just your body going into overdrive. The crash that follows is your system trying to recover from the chemical assault. Energy drinks have been linked to heart problems, especially in young people who consume multiple cans. But they're marketed as performance enhancers, sporting tools, and lifestyle products. What you're really drinking is a laboratory-created stimulant cocktail with enough sugar to make it palatable. Packaged bread, the eternal loaf. Homemade bread goes stale in a couple of days. Store-bought bread lasts for weeks. That's not because modern wheat is better. It's because of the long list of additives mixed into commercial dough. Dough conditioners like azotocarbonamide, the same chemical used in yoga mats and shoe soles, make the dough easier to work with and the bread softer. Mold inhibitors like calcium propionate prevent spoilage, letting loaves sit on shelves indefinitely. Preservatives, emulsifiers, and enzymes all work together to create a product that barely resembles actual bread. Traditional bread is flour, water, yeast, and salt. Commercial bread can have 20 or more ingredients, many with chemical names you can't pronounce. The texture is unnaturally soft and uniform, the crust thin and weak. Real bread requires fresh ingredients and has a short shelf life because it's actually food. What sits in those plastic bags in the supermarket is an engineered food product designed for convenience and profit, not nutrition or flavor. That sweet taste isn't from wheat, it's from added sugar and high fructose corn syrup. Bottled smoothies and juices, dead nutrients. Those bottles of juice and smoothies in the refrigerated section look healthy, but they've been heat-treated to death. Pasteurization involves heating liquids to high temperatures to kill bacteria and extend shelf life. The problem is, this process also destroys most of the vitamins, enzymes, and beneficial compounds that made the fruits and vegetables healthy in the first place. What you're left with is basically sugar water with some fiber and a ghost of nutritional value. Vitamin C, one of the most sensitive nutrients, is almost completely destroyed by pasteurization. Enzymes that help with digestion are denatured and useless. The bright marketing about fresh fruits and vegetables is technically true for the starting ingredients, but by the time the product reaches you, it's been cooked into submission. Fresh juice made at home oxidizes and loses nutrients within hours. These bottled versions sit for weeks or months, their nutritional content declining the entire time. The convenience factor is real, but you're paying premium prices for what amounts to flavored sugar water with minimal nutritional benefit. Pre-shredded cheese, coated in wood powder. Shredding your own cheese takes maybe 30 seconds, but buying it pre-shredded means eating cellulose with every bite. Like the Parmesan issue, pre-shredded cheese is coated in anti-caking agents derived from wood pulp to prevent the shreds from clumping together. This cellulose coating is why pre-shredded cheese doesn't melt as smoothly as fresh shredded. The coating interferes with the melting process, leaving you with a grainy, separated texture instead of smooth, creamy melted cheese. Some brands use potato starch instead, but the principle is the same. You're eating additives instead of pure cheese. The cheese itself is often lower quality as well, since the shredding and coating process hides imperfections. Fresh cheese that you shred yourself melts beautifully, tastes better, and doesn't contain any anti-caking agents. The convenience of buying pre-shredded comes at the cost of quality, texture, and the fact that you're eating wood fiber with your pizza. Fake maple syrup, corn syrup imposter. Real maple syrup comes from trees and costs $15 or more for a small bottle. The cheap stuff in the plastic jug is corn syrup with maple flavoring and caramel coloring. That's it. No maple trees were involved in the production. High fructose corn syrup provides the sweetness and viscosity, while artificial flavoring creates the vague impression of maple. Caramel coloring makes it brown so it looks right on your pancakes. Some brands add a tiny percentage of real maple syrup to technically claim it contains real maple, but the amount is negligible. Real maple syrup is expensive because it takes 40 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup. Trees are tapped, sap is collected, and then it's boiled down for hours. It's labor-intensive and time-consuming. Corn syrup can be manufactured year-round in massive quantities for pennies. The taste isn't even close if you compare them side by side. Real maple syrup has complexity and subtle flavors. The fake stuff is just sweet with a chemical aftertaste. But most people have grown up eating the imitation and don't know what real maple syrup actually tastes like. Processed bacon. Water injected and artificially smoked. Even bacon, beloved by millions, isn't what it seems. Most commercial bacon is cured with sodium nitrite, a preservative that prevents botulism but also gives bacon its pink color and distinctive flavor. Many brands inject their bacon with water and phosphates to increase weight, just like chicken breast. You'll notice excessive shrinkage when cooking cheap bacon. That's the water evaporating. Artificial smoke flavoring is often sprayed on instead of actually smoking the meat, saving time and money in production. The bacon might spend a few minutes in a smoking chamber for the label claim, but most of the smoke flavor comes from a bottle. Nitrites have been linked to certain health concerns when consumed regularly, especially when bacon is cooked at high temperatures and forms nitrosamines. But the industry continues using them because consumers expect bacon to be pink and taste a certain way. That crispy breakfast staple is preserved with chemicals, pumped with water, and artificially flavored to meet expectations. Fraudulent olive oil, cut with cheap alternatives. That bottle labeled extra virgin olive oil might not be olive oil at all. Olive oil fraud is rampant, especially with imported oils. Producers cut expensive olive oil with cheap soybean, sunflower, or canola oil to increase profit margins. Some bottles contain no olive oil whatsoever, just cheaper oils with added chlorophyll for color and flavoring to mimic olive taste. Testing has revealed that up to 70% of extra virgin olive oil sold in the United States doesn't meet the legal standards for that designation. The oils are either rancid, chemically refined, or blended with other oils. Real extra virgin olive oil is expensive to produce and has a limited shelf life. The incentives for fraud are enormous, and enforcement is difficult because testing is expensive and time-consuming. That means most consumers have no idea what real olive oil tastes like because they've only ever had the fake stuff. The health benefits associated with olive oil only apply to the real thing. When you're consuming a blend of cheap seed oils with olive flavoring, you're not getting any of those benefits. Chicken stock cubes, salt bombs with no chicken. Those little cubes that dissolve into broth contain almost no actual chicken. The ingredient list starts with salt, usually comprising more than half the cube. Then comes monosodium glutamate to provide that savory umami flavor, followed by artificial chicken flavoring, hydrogenated oils, and various preservatives and colorants. The actual chicken content, if any, is minimal, sometimes less than 1%. These cubes are designed to approximate the flavor of real chicken stock without the expense of using actual chicken. They're cheap, shelf-stable, and convenient, but they're also mostly salt and chemicals. Real chicken stock is made by simmering bones and meat for hours, extracting collagen, minerals, and flavor into the liquid. Stock cubes skip all that and just hit your taste buds with salt and glutamate to trick you into thinking you're eating something nourishing. When you dissolve one cube into water, you're making salt water with artificial flavoring. The sodium content alone is enough to concern anyone watching their blood pressure, and the lack of actual nutrition means you're not getting any of the benefits of real bone broth. Knowledge changes everything. Once you know what actually goes into these products, the appealing packaging and clever marketing lose their power. Your grocery store suddenly looks different, full of products designed more for profit margins than for nourishing the people eating them. Real food costs more and requires more effort, but at least you know what you're eating.